Snowy Speaks back here with another build video. This time, we're going to build a base from scratch that we call the LongHouse. And we call this thing the LongHouse because, given what it sort of functionally is, it's got a pretty long footprint. So what you've got is basically, now this is actually a longer version than the one I'm going to show you. This is the 1x2 variation, but you'll notice even this one, which is a little bigger, 1,400 frags a day, a couple hundred stone, a little bit of high wall. Very, very low upkeep for a base, which is a 16 rocket raid, no matter which direction you come in from. And on the exterior, we sometimes call this the jungle gym because players can't help themselves but climb all over it every chance they get. You've got a really strange looking exterior. And this is because we're exploiting one of the aspects of the angled roof tiles. So this is both a wall and a roof at the same time. So it covers the wall portion and the roof portion, or the floor portion, I guess you could say, and in one piece, which radically reduces the number of blocks you've got in this base. And because we've got basically 2 layers of sheet covering the entire base, you've got 16 rockets, and then you've got this glorious twig bunker, which helps if you open it from the right direction. And it's very easy to open and close. Now, you may have already noticed, oh, we don't have the security set up. Let's get the security set up. So this is a blueprint-free base, with the exception that at some point you're really going to want one of these. Oops, wrong way. And I can even show you why. If you do not have authorization, the flame traps will quite angrily shut that bunker instantly. We've used these reliably, they're great. So what is the cost on this? What is upkeep? Try that for the 3rd time. So cost we've got is 9k frags, 10k frags, 6k wood, 3k stone. Most of this, keep in mind there's a lot of stuff in the base, and that includes all of that cost. The build cost itself is a bit less, and the upkeep, again, not particularly high for such a tough base. And we use these because, you play Rust, you live in a world where offline raiding is common. Spending a bit of effort building a really hard base is often worth it, because once people offline this thing, especially if you're using it as not a storage base, they're not going to get anything near 16 rockets worth of loot out of it. People give up on these pretty quick. So let's move on to the build. Building one of these, there's a few key elements to this, and I'm going to build you the variation we use as a farm base, like a snow node farm base. So here, one of the key elements is that angle alignment I've talked about in another video. If you look at the top of the screen, you can see I'm aligning my compass heading with one of the points on the compass. And again, I'm not using east or southeast, one of the ones with the big triangle arrowheads. I'm using one of the points that is where you can really precisely align it. And you also want your foundation to be a little bit high. It doesn't have to be super high, but here's why. You want to be able to, depending obviously on your terrain, do this. You want to have room to put a box under a box. So now that we've got that built, as I said, I'm going to build you the snow farm variation. Wait a minute. Yeah. Which is really, really small. But if you're out farming in the snow, you've run into this problem yourself. You're out doing your farming. You built a 1x2 because it was cheap and easy. You used it one time to farm and depot and get the stuff back to your main base. And the moment you did that, It got raided. Now you have to build another one. That gets raided. You have to build another one. So we were a little tired of that. So we started to build these really hard to raid bases. And this one you're going to notice is a lot cheaper on the build cost. Now, you may have noticed I did a couple things. For starters, this is your only starter, a 1x1 with a double door on it when you're building this. You can just go from this, just make sure you angle the alignment. Now, this particular wall, you either have to do this, and this is actually how we prefer to do it, because if you do get raided, you don't want to lose that shelf, or you have to do this. I hope you're familiar with this one. Because once this base is built, there is no putting this shelf in. It's impossible once the base is built. So now that we've got our starter built, and again, nice angle alignment. Where were we? And also you can you can use the foundation line on the stone foundation to get a feel for it. Anyway, the next phase is building the bunker. Now this one is a little tricky. These walls need to be in place. They're helpful. You have to use a square foundation for this because the triangles are too far away. Now, the key elements are we want it to be a little lower than the existing foundation. And this actually is how it should look. If you look at the corners where the blue twig is about to join up or is joining up with the stone foundations, it should look like that. And I'll give you a look from up above. If you're standing, it's similar. There it is. That's because it's deep enough in. If I was to place this, if I was to lower it a little bit and place it, you would have a foundation attached to the base where this wall would be lower than the rest. Now, the reason you need it lower, you'll see in a minute. It doesn't have to be a lot lower, but a bit. And you start with it perfectly angle aligned. Now, you're going to have to pick a direction, left or right. It doesn't actually matter which one. But you want to twist about 2.5 degrees in one direction. And try and keep your heading level. Now, you slide back and in the direction you just twisted. Then, without pressing back any longer, you sort of tap out in the opposite direction. And if you're lucky, there it is, you get this. Now, you might have to tap forward a pinch or even backward a pinch, depending on your terrain conditions. So our first test, gap there, no gap. That's good. We can see the gap. We can also see the conditional model. So this one is for sure connected. Next test is going to pass. Trust me on that. I've seen this before, but with that conditional, we know. The problem with this is if you're building it in twig, you don't get a conditional model. So now this square has to go. And the way you do this is it's a square and it's 2 triangles. Now this piece is just a placeholder. It could be a square or a triangle. But all we do is we now delete these and invert it. A square and 2 triangles going back. And now you have swapped your square for a triangle. And your bunker works just fine. So that part's perfect. We're going to build one of these walls, but not 2. Put a roof on. Now this, oh wait, what? That was interesting. Of course it's not going to happen. Oh, there it is. So this is actually something you kind of want to do, is build that back roof first before you build the one down here. And the reason for that is it's a stability issue. It won't matter on this base, but some of our builds it does. This is 26% stable if it's attached to this wall. But if you put this one down first, this is only 9% stable because it'll attach to the roof instead. So if you're planning on building up here, which we sometimes do, that stability matters. Most builds it doesn't. On with the rest of the build. Pop in your angled roofs. And these can wait because we haven't got the front down yet, but that part doesn't matter very much. You're building the whole thing as it goes anyway. Roofs. So you've noticed we got those weird holes. We've got this weird gap. We obviously need to seal this, which starts pretty easily with this. Now, this one in particular, you could just upgrade that to sheet right away. But notice we built out and now we're building in. And once you get to this point where you're in front of the triangle, that's where you place a square, and look at how ridiculously close these are. Then you go back out with triangles, and again, that one can be sheet because it's staying outside the base. Delete your extras. Put in the extra roofs you need here. Come on, come on. Why is this so difficult? There we go. Now, here's where we run into potentially some trouble, and this is why that wall has to be low. Notice how, if you look at the blue line, it's completely not the same angle as the door frame. That's because it's trying to attach to the twisted freehand place foundation, and we can't have that. Now, this base, you finish it off with this, and this. Now, that last one, if you're building a different version, you may use a wall here instead if you're going to be 2 stories tall. This one's not 2 stories, so this is how we finish it. And as far as the roof goes, this is done other than upgrading later. As far as the rest of this goes, these need to be hard side out, and I'll cover that in a second. You could use windows here. It does give you a little peek down the side of the base, but you definitely don't have to. And now, this base is basically done, except like I was mentioning, for the upgrading part. Now, I left the upgrading on purpose because there's a bit of a trick with this as well. The top of the base is actually really easy to upgrade because from one side, you can actually just see the entire base. That's all done. Poof. No worries, no muss, no fuss. That's very, very easy. But the other bunker, the other part of this is actually tricky. Because as soon as you upgrade, you get a gap in your base. Which means, oh yeah, I forgot. That you want, maybe anyway, I know I like to have access to the inside of the base. You can upgrade this bit first. Wow, this server. It's got upgrade weird where if you control or shift, you'll change the quality of the piece you're looking at as well. So you can see where I did that a couple times without even trying. In any case, the disconnecting foundations, it means you're going to be a little vulnerable for a minute. So if you're confident and you want to do it from outside, seal this up first. Otherwise, I go ahead and leave it open until I'm done, because you can also, like I said, you can do the foundations, then you can go do the outer shell. So the reasoning behind this being hard side out, well, for starters, you've got, this issue. Now, upgrading these to sheets, not a bad plan, but here's the thing. Hard side out so they can't get into the base, just soft siding, but then you have this problem where they can soft side in. So this needs to be sheet metal as well. And the reason is if you hard side in, or soft side in, I'm sorry, and then you soft side through this, well now, is the server crashing? Gotta love it when a server crashes in the middle of your recording. So as I was saying, upgrading these to sheets not a bad idea. But even if you don't, if they soft side through and come in here, having this one be sheet is what maintains the 16 rocket rate. Because if it's soft sidable, you can just pop in here. Now it's only 8 rockets. Whereas if you keep this one sheet, I mean, sure they can soft side. Soft siding sheet is tedious. So just upgrading that one by itself is also not a bad step to go through. So here you have it, the absolute most basic farm. It's one of our favorite farm bases because other teams hate them. They're so hard to raid. And what are we looking at for cost now? 5,700 metal frags, not even 3K wood or stone. It's really pretty cheap for what it does. And the next step to this is, like I said, we use these as farm bases a lot, so we typically do one twist to make these better as a farm base, and that is we add a heli bay, which doesn't add much to the base as far as cost or upkeep. It's a bit more stone. But as you can see, we're still under 9k frags, or 900 frags, I'm sorry, and under a stack of stone a day. If you're out and about farming, you've got room to put a workbench in here, terrain dependent a little bit, a single solar panel, a small battery will run a couple space heaters and a couple lights just fine. If you might be able to squeeze in a heartbeat sensor for your door so you can automatically open and shut your door when you're flying the heli in and out. But overall, it's a really cheap base, and as I've mentioned, we have built a lot of variations on this. But this one is one of our go-tos of all time. So hopefully that's helpful, and stick around if you want to see a couple of the other variations. I don't know if we have a proper name for this one yet. Definitely looks a bit like an ice cream cone. And this is sort of set up for a future of being 2 stories, although this is backwards. As it is, in this one, oh, there's not a wall here for some reason. In any case, there should be a wall there. You've got the same basic layout up front, but in the back, this is all anti-splash, rocket splash. You now have multiple loot rooms that you can get into, and the idea is just being able to, have a high cost raid target that is also good storage, and having your storage separated all over the place. Because if you take a look at this, there's honeycomb in between each of the loot rooms, as well as above them and below them, so, or around them. So this is one of those, I'm not even sure what the raid cost on this thing would be if you tried to get the entire thing. And especially if you upgrade the roofs over your loot rooms to high qual, because now it's going to get even harder. You could upgrade all of these to high qual and make it another, extra rockets. Oh yeah, this thing. I forgot about this. This is tricky. I shouldn't even be showing this. You can actually get into these. So this is one of those things. Bloodsattani would probably be proud. But yeah, this is one of our alternate designs that is a much bigger. Let's see, what's the cost on this one? It's only 23,000 metal frags to build it. But I mean, the upkeep is still pretty damn cheap. 4k frags and 25 high qual. That's not bad at all. Because this is what you need in your base builds. Ah, I missed. Alright, it's part of the fun. This base, we call it the dysfunctional. It has not only... Oh god, these are so hard to drive on this server. The server lag is so bad on builders. That regardless of the dysfunctional, you can park cars inside it by driving up on the roof, as I'm attempting to do. You can park mini copters in here. You can fly in and out. Our usual design actually has the mini underneath the car instead of above it. But yeah, these are another one of these crazy base designs, and at its core, it's just 2 longhouses attached in the center. Plenty of room again, very hard target, a couple garage doors in the right places, and this thing gets very hard to raid, just like the other one does. And while the cost on this is going to be quite a bit more preposterous, ooh, it's only 40k metal frags, that's not bad. We're still less than a box. Did you know you could do this? Maybe not. In any case, yeah, this is another one of our weird builds. One of my buddies built a version of this. I believe it's a 13 TC 200 rocket raid base built with 6 longhouses attached to a central core, and the bunkers have bunkers. It's fantastic. In any case, that's enough longhouse nonsense for one video. You guys have a good one.